by the end of the term. It's like, okay, you're going to kill me, right? And I always remind them, I did get my letter from Kirk earlier this year that at the end of this year, I can retire early. Just so you know, Kathy. Because I can't afford to, but...
Good morning. Good morning. It's always nice to send out a media advisory and say you can't talk about it. Hardly anyone talked about it. Boy, what's going on Monday? I can't tell you. We are really pleased that such a great group of community leaders are here today. And it's my pleasure to introduce Antonio Riley from the Office of Housing and Urban Development in the City of Chicago with some really great news that will benefit our city for years to come. Antonio.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Antonio Riley. I'm the Regional Administrator for HUD Region 5. I have the pleasure of overseeing HUD's operations for the President and Secretary in 6 Midwestern states. I'm headquartered out of Chicago, but I still live in Milwaukee. And I have to say to my staff that this last month and this month has been in Indiana a Hoosier time for me. I have been all over and it's only befitting that my journey has brought me here to Evansville, Indiana. Let me thank you all for being with us this morning. I would like to acknowledge the Mayor, Winnicky, for his leadership, and thank you so very much, Mayor. And also, let me acknowledge the Echo Housing Corporation Executive Director, Stephanie Tinberg. Thank you. And all of the incredible staff and the local elected and the federal elected officials' offices who are here today. For your assistance in pulling together this really wonderful, impressive gathering of leaders from all sectors of this community, from the philanthropic and the corporate, the academic, and the community-based, and the faith-based. So give them a round of applause, if you will. You know, I get to stand up here all the time and say on behalf of the President and the Secretary, but there are a lot of our staff who are in the trenches every day, making a difference all across my region, this great country. Let me acknowledge John Hall, who is the director of our office here for HUD. John has done an extraordinary job for us here in this community. You know, the Obama administration is committed to providing local leaders with proven tools that advance their vision for change in their respective communities and in helping to ensure a decent living for hard-working Americans. You know, that's why the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and the U.S. Department of Agriculture are today announcing the third and the final round of the communities designated as Promise Zones. The Promise Zones are high-poverty neighborhoods where federal government partners with local leaders to create jobs and increase economic opportunity, improve educational opportunities, leverage private investment, reduce crime, and address other priorities as identified by that local community. The local organizations that come together to implement their comprehensive strategies, they work in a wide variety of disciplines. And the federal partners brings focus from the agencies that provide funding, information, and networks that can help each of these communities to achieve their stated goals. Now, to be designated as a Promise Zone, one must compete and comply with the requirements of this initiative. That is its application guide that is put on the Federal Registry. This includes demonstrating strengths, regional assets, and commitments in order to be a designee. Now, these new designees were selected following a thorough application and screening process that occurred across multiple federal agencies beginning in February of 2016. In this round of the Promise Zone competition, HUD, the USDA, received some 82 applications from 64 urban applicants, 11 rural applicants, and 12 tribal applicants. The applicants represent some 38 states, including Puerto Rico. Now, the 9 new designees represent 5 cities, 2 rural areas, and 2 tribal communities. The 5 new urban designees are located in Atlanta, Georgia, Nashville, Tennessee, South Los Angeles, San Diego, California, and last but not least, and more importantly, right here in Evansville, Indiana. And so congratulations to the Evansville and to your ECHO housing partners for your extraordinary work. You know, the Evansville Promise Zone has a robust team of community partners, and the ECHO Housing Corporation, leading the collaborative effort, has led the organization and Evansville Department of Metropolitan Development as a partner. These organizations have aligned priority initiatives with 6 strategic goals: increase jobs, expand economic development, improve educational opportunities, reduce violent crime, promote health and access to health care, and provide access to quality, affordable housing. Now, Evansville will join the 13 Promise Zone communities that we announced in round 1 and in round 2. I won't go through them all. There's a whole list of them all across the country. The Promise Zone designees, as a result of this designation, the Promise Zone cities will get 10 years of federal commitment. 10-year commitment this is to this neighborhood, to this community. Receive priority access to federal investments that further community strategic plan. A federal liaison will be hired to help the local leaders to navigate federal government so the resources can flow in, meaning that we will be hiring a full-time person whose job will be to work with this local community on that 10-year plan. Receive 5 full-time AmeriCorps Vista volunteer members to help further the capacity building within the designated Promise Zone area, and some 17 federal agencies will be providing preferential access to some 69 federal programs to make sure that as those applications come in, you're going to have those federal agencies working the crossway to make sure that you are getting access to those federal resources. What that means is that when there is a competition for federal dollars as a result of your Promise Zone designation, that for those 17 federal agencies and those 69 federal programs, you will receive bonus points in that competition, which steps up our ability to make sure we are investing in that Promise Zone to help you to achieve the goals that you've laid out. That's important. Now, one would say, since we've done these Promise Zones, what has been the record thus far? I'm proud to say that since 2014, the partner organizations from these Promise Zones have secured approximately some $500 million in federal funding, and these federal assistance has catalyzed additional investment from the private sector as well. As I mentioned above before, the city of Indianapolis won a Promise Zone designation in 2015. A couple of weeks ago, I had the honor of being in Indianapolis, celebrating the 1-year anniversary of their Promise Zone designation, their accomplishments to date. In East Indy, Promise Zone has already secured nearly $10 million in federal funds, federal grants, from 7 different federal agencies, including the Department of Health and Human Services, USDA, Department of Labor, EPA, SBA, HUD, and the National Endowments for the Arts. This support has helped to create in the East Indy Promise Zone area some 110 jobs, provided life-saving workforce training to hundreds of formerly incarcerated individuals, and developed a new energy-efficient apartment building for low-income seniors. And across the country, Promise Zone designations led to significant investment. In San Antonio, the Promise Zone Work There initiative was launched and has since provided free job training certifications in nursing, construction, manufacturing, information technology, and in heavy equipment for some 106 residents. This effort is contributing to the overall unemployment rate decline in that community from some 15.0% to 11.0% in the designated Promise Zone area. In North Minneapolis, USDA awarded an Appetite for Change, a locally organized organization, a community food program grant to help to continue to expand programs that are changing the way food is produced, marketed, distributed, consumed in North Minneapolis. This program serves over 1,000 community members with some 24 youth employed and trained and 15 jobs created, and adding 53 community-owned food business startups in that designated Promise Zone area. In the southeastern Kentucky, a new educational framework and support for AmeriCorps Vista members lifted the graduation rate at LaSalle County High School from 67% to 98%. We want you to hear that. We want you to hear that because with these Promise Zone designations, this isn't just about talk. By collaborating our strategies, our federal investment, local efforts, we can and we are making a very big difference in the lives of real people. And I want you to understand that. And so we are excited about this announcement today. We are excited about coming back. Well, we won't have a year because the Constitution has an expiration date on this administration. But no matter who is in there, this is a 10-year commitment. So whoever's going to be in my shoes next time, they're going to be looking forward to coming back that year later and to see what progress you are continuously making here in Evansville, Indiana. Because at the end of the day, all of our joint efforts are about one thing. It's about opportunity. You know, it's about creating jobs and strengthening communities. It's about giving businesses, large and small, the opportunity to get access to the broader talent pool. And it's about giving communities the opportunity to work together, to grow together, and to prosper together. Today, we are dedicated to continuing to lay a strong foundation so that we can make sure that America remains the undisputed land of opportunity. I can't thank you all for your work that you have done on behalf of President Obama, Secretary Julian Castro. Congratulations. Your best days are yet to come.
Great way to start the week, isn't it? Yeah. Antonio, thank you. Thank you for delivering good news. There are so many people here that I'd like to recognize. I think every member of the City Council is here. I appreciate their attendance. I know we have members of the state legislative delegation. Thanks for being here, Dr. Smith, and your leadership team. Most of all, I'd like to thank HUD. I'd like to thank HUD for making this designation. I can tell you about, let me tell you just a quick story. Wednesday afternoon, Mary Ann Hill at my office gets a call and says, someone from HUD calls, and apparently Secretary Castro needs to speak to you. Okay. Hopefully his cabinet secretary is calling with good news. So we arranged the time at 4:50 on Thursday afternoon, right at the end of the news conference celebrating new air service from Evansville to Florida. We took the call in the airport conference room. About a 6-minute call, not that I was timing it, but he told me that the level of collaboration is what really helped distinguish Evansville's application from the dozens of other applications from around the country. He said that's something that you and your city should be very proud of. And I think it's important that you all know that, because what's represented here today, all kinds of social service organizations, the educational community, the corporate community, neighborhood associations, you all know each other. So thank you for your collaboration, because your collaboration helped us get this designation. I'd like to thank the local Promise Zone Committee. We worked for months to assemble information, get input from residents, and hold informational meetings around the city. This process has helped sharpen the city's focus on our neighborhoods that are in most distress. As Antonio said, there are 6 main goals, and I think we need to reiterate those today. To increase jobs, increase overall economic activity within the zone, improve educational opportunities within the zone, reduce crime, promote health and access to health care, and increase access to affordable housing. 6 important goals. They could be goals in many cities, but these are the goals that our city and our committee has recognized that are important to help us grow. We know that the poverty rate within the zone, which represents the urban core of the city, continues to grow. We think our efforts to clear blight and redevelop this area will be aided by the Promise Zone designation. We think that the Promise Zone designation will help many of our citizens help realize the American dream. We know that 53% of homeownership has slid to 53% in our city, compared to 63% statewide. So we think this will help increase that. ECHO, as the lead applicant and DMD as the lead partner, will work closely to maximize the potential for the Promise Zone designation. Now, we need to be clear about something. There are no guarantees of federal money, but, as Antonio said, this designation does give the city priority consideration with multiple federal agencies that can help our city. So I challenge you, if you work for an organization that's trying to fill the void in any of those gap areas, to work within the Promise Zone parameters to leverage federal money. Collaboration, continued collaboration is key to our success. Finally, we've been using a big word a lot lately in our community, transformational. We use it related to the medical school because we know that in just a couple of years, we're starting to rebuild a pipeline of healthcare professionals and conduct important medical research right in the heart of our city. We've used transformational as it relates to regional cities. We know that we're leveraging $600 million of public and private investment to get another $42 million in state money to help Evansville become a better quality of place to attract better workforce. And now we're going to use transformational for the Promise Zone, because this designation will allow us to truly focus and revitalize neighborhoods that are in most distress. We don't use that word lightly, but the potential, as Antonio said, that's been documented in other cities, is impressive, to say the least. Antonio, on behalf of the City of Evansville, thank you for your consideration. We are delighted. We will work our tails off to make sure that this is that we are worthy of this designation. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce Stephanie Tinbarge from ECHO Housing. So she's not on medical. She's not been released medically since her surgery here. So if her doctor sees us, forgive us. This is good news, and she and her team have been integral to this designation. Stephanie.
Hopefully, as the first order of business, I don't knock over the podium. Again, I had knee surgery 2 weeks ago today, so if I'd have known this, boy, I'd have rescheduled that. Let me start by saying that although it's ECHO Housing standing at the podium today as the lead applicant, we would not be here and could not be here if it were not for the level of community engagement and commitment that has been part of this planning and application process, which you've heard everyone say. We had an 8-member planning team that started meeting in 2015, and one of our first tasks was to identify the area for designation. And you see it on the map over here. It was a challenge, and once we identified the area, we had to come up with the goal areas that we would select. We had to identify committed resources, both financial and non-financial, possible implementation partners, potential gaps, and projected outcomes. The area, we all decided, had to be greater than just any one neighborhood. So we selected an area that encompassed all high poverty census tracts and areas in the city of Evansville, which encompasses a population of over 22,000 people. So then we picked our 6 goals, which you've heard repeated, and it wasn't enough just to pick the goals. We had to say, okay, who would take ownership of these goals? And who would become and sign on to be the implementation partner? Because HUD was very clear that you had to show in your application the who, what, where, why, when, how, and all of that. So we had to identify what resources were currently committed, which in doing so, we were overwhelmed by the amount of things that are already happening in our community that we could leverage through this powerful grant application. Then we had to look for sources of additional funds to match the proposed federal funding, and then to identify outcomes that we hope we would get over this 10-year period. Each of these goal areas was championed by a member of the planning committee, and they formed subcommittees, thereby broadening the base of community involvement through citywide neighborhood meetings, public forums, social media, and surveys that involved both residents and stakeholders. We had over 70 stakeholders involved and 60 organizations participating, and we got an overwhelming 43% response from the residents surveyed. And what came out of this process? 20 diverse organizations stepped forward, 20, from city to nonprofits to banks to schools to businesses, and committed to becoming implementation partners, taking ownership of certain goals for the next 10-year designation, and each signed a formal MOU committing to this. That's pretty incredible. I'd like for the planning team to please stand. I really want to acknowledge all the hard work you've done. Obviously myself, Echo Housing, worked with Work One on the job creation goal. Jennifer Cook, Jacobsville Join In, worked with the police department reducing violent crime and resident engagement. Kelly Kors, director of the City of Evansville, DMD, working hard on economic activity and on all the goals, I might add. Dr. Kathy Gray, Evansville School Corporation, working on increasing educational opportunities and coordinating early childhood development, K through 12, and adult learning. Lori Reed, which was Community One, and the chair of House, which is a unique consortium to Evansville, I think. Housing Organizations United to Serve Evansville. And she worked on the affordable housing component. Chris Cook from UNO, United Neighborhoods of Evansville, worked on resident engagement and infrastructure. Sandy Strader-McMillan from Echo Health worked on the health and wellness piece. Sherry Shapker from the city worked on data and mapping. And then there's 2 very special groups that were on the team that I want to stand individually. And one is Dan Deal of Deal Consulting. Diligently on helping put the application together, compilation, data collection, narrative, and submission. And then partnering with Dan is Amy Bolick, my neighbor and friend. And I can't tell you how we literally bonded at the hip as we were submitting this application. And Dan, the mom in me came out, and Dan comes in the other room, lip trembling. He goes, "Everything I uploaded just got wiped out." And I was like, oh. So we were it was kind of a aha moment. But anyway, so what are the next steps? Well, in the grant we said we would form a governance committee, which will start meeting even as we speak, to develop MOUs with the implementation partners for data sharing, develop a logic model and evaluation procedures, and we promised HUD that this would all be up and running within 6 months. There will be a resident engagement coordinator will be designated to ensure resident participation at all levels, and as the mayor said, both the city and ECHO will appoint liaisons to engage directly with HUD and other federal agencies. The governance committee will consist of a representative from ECHO, the city, Evansville School Corporation, ECHO Health, UNO, and a representative from each of the goal work groups, probably from the implementation partners. Okay, as the mayor said to you, I'm going to challenge each and every one of you because this is not a given. We have to work hard over the next 10 years to get these federal dollars in, but we also have to leverage local dollars to make this happen. And so keep this in mind as you do your fundraising events, as you, if you're corporations or banks or whatever, that this is a really wonderful place to put your funding to help really work and make a difference in the community. So in closing, I'm going to say ECHO is really proud to be part of this larger initiative that has the capability of transforming, again there's that word, transformation, the high poverty areas of our city and making Evansville the #1 city in the nation to live, work, and play. So I'm going to say, don't talk, act. Don't say, show. Don't promise, prove. This is my promise to the community of Evansville.
Okay, it's hot. We're under a tent. Thanks for being here today. I think Stephanie's charge says it all. Media, if you'd like to talk to anyone who participated or anyone else will be available here. Thanks for your support and thanks for being here today to celebrate.